So yesterday, college football took a little turn. Tennessee lost, who was number 5 and looking to sneak their way into the playoffs. So they're out. But USC is going to be moving up, I believe. USC moved up in the AP poll, so now we just got to look and see if they move up in the actual poll that matters, right? Before we get started, let me first off thank Aaron Alley there for the 99-cent super sticker. Much appreciate that, buddy. So anyway, I've got a couple of guests coming in today. We've got right now we do have Ty Guy in the back room, so I'm gonna bring him in with us.
Thank you, Eric.
What's going on, Ty Guy?
Super sticker. Much appreciate that, buddy.
Hey, Ty Guy. Or hey.
So anyway,
Joey,
I've got a couple of guests coming in today. We've got
I'm getting an echo there. There it's gone.
Super sticker. Much
hey, let me hop out. Let me hop out, and I'll come right back.
All right. So anyway, so I'm gonna go over a few college football scores from yesterday, real quick. Nothing great, but really quick. So Georgia struggled a little bit, but finally pulled out to win against Kentucky, 16-6. Ohio State struggled quite a bit, but finally pulled out a win against Maryland, 43-30. Michigan struggled a whole lot, but finally get a walk-off field goal to win 19-17 over Illinois. TCU, once again, struggled like crazy. Walk-off field goal to win the game 29-28 over Baylor. Tennessee, they didn't even show up. Lost 63-38 to South Carolina. I heard somebody say South Carolina probably could have scored 100 if they wanted to. I don't know how true that is. LSU took down UAB 41-10, just like they should have done. Southern Cal, another team barely squeaked by, but they made it by. Beat UCLA 48-45. Alabama, no trouble with Austin Peay, of course, 34-0. Clemson takes care of Miami like they should have done because Miami's down quite a bit this year, 40-10. And Oregon beats Utah 20-17. So that's what's going on there. So I thought it was amazing that we had so many teams struggle yesterday. Not that that's a bad thing. It's never necessarily a bad thing if a team struggles. I mean, this just happens from week to week. You're going to have a team that struggles. But it looked like nearly everyone, every top 10 team struggled yesterday, with the exception of like Alabama, who didn't play, but nobody but Austin Peay. And Clemson didn't have any trouble with Miami. Everyone else kind of struggled a little bit. Tennessee struggled so bad they lost pretty bad. So, all right, Ty Guy, welcome back in, man.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, that Tennessee game was something yesterday. A couple interesting facts about that game is that was the first time in poll history that a top 5 team gave up 63 points to an unranked team. And the other cool thing about yesterday was Beamer became the first coach since the 70s to win 2 games in one season by 20 points, where he was an underdog by at least 20 points.
How about that? He's a good coach. I like him. I think he's a good coach. South Carolina could be on an incline. Let me go over to finish the rest of the top 25 here real quick. I stopped with Oregon and Utah. Oregon took out Utah 20-17. Kind of good game. Good game all the way around. Penn State took down Rutgers 55-10. Georgia Tech. How about Georgia Tech, buddy? They have been a dumpster fire for a while, and they took out number 13 North Carolina 21-17. I don't know if anybody has seen it or not, but C-Dog Morgan. C-Dog, if anybody knows who that is. He's a Georgia Tech fan. He made a video after that game. If I was his neighbor, I'd have went out and shot him. He went running up and down the road in the middle of the night screaming, we won, we beat North Carolina. So if you haven't watched that video by C-Dog, you need to look him up and watch that. It's funny. Arkansas took down Ole Miss 42-27. Ole Miss was ranked number 14 in the nation, so we had some serious upsets yesterday. Of course, Kansas State, number 15 in the nation, took out West Virginia 48-31. That was kind of expected. Washington took care of Colorado 54-7. Notre Dame took care of Boston College 44-0. Florida State took care of Louisiana 49-17. UCF lost to Navy 17-14. Another upset. Oklahoma State lost to Oklahoma 28-13. Another upset. And Oregon State took out Arizona State 31-7. NC State lost to Louisville 25-10. Another upset. And then number 25, Cincinnati, took care of Temple 23-3. So we had quite a few upsets yesterday. We've got Tony joining us too. Hey, Tony, what's going on, buddy?
I think we saw there was a lot of fake pretenders yesterday.
Yeah, we did.
A lot of them people talk about as big upsets. I don't even think they're upsets so much as I think overrated teams got exposed. Like Ole Miss, not nearly as good as their rating would show them to be. Tennessee, not even close to being as good as their rating would show them to be. And I'll tell you what, we talk about the emperor having new clothes. The reigning emperor, Mr. Georgia, looked pretty bad against a genuinely awful team, Kentucky. So there were a lot of folks that, were they looking ahead? I mean, you look at Michigan and Illinois, you look at Ohio State and Maryland. Were those two looking ahead? Probably a little bit. But was Notre Dame looking ahead? Nope. So, there's a lot of teams that I think just kind of got exposed. The other thing is that I think yesterday really reiterated we've had, I think, a period of about, Jeff? Well, since a year or two after Saban got hired, when we've just sort of been in this mindset that there is like an invincible team and that we will find the invincible team and they'll pull the sword from the stone and be undefeated. National champions used to sometimes have a loss or two.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we're gonna be at a point. It's not a bad thing. I mean, nobody's perfect, and so I think we're hopefully moving past this era of not for your sake, Jeff. Sorry, but this era of like the one anointed team that is invincible, because we've certainly seen there aren't any.
Well, and like you kind of mentioned, in the past, teams have struggled. I mean, Alabama has lost a game. Or, they struggled against a team and barely won. But this year, it's not just one struggle. I mean, Georgia is the number one team right now. They struggled against Kentucky. They struggled against Kent State. They struggled against Missouri. But then they were dominant against other teams. So, I mean, this is one of the years where there truly isn't the 1 and 2 team. This is the year for a 12-team playoff. I mean, because there's a lot of parity. And, you don't have, like you said, you don't have that dominant team that in the beginning of the season we crowned champions because you knew nobody was going to beat them.
And I think that's exciting for the sport, too.
The other thing that's exciting is
Vanderbilt's on a winning streak.
If you guys win out, you can be in the playoffs. If TCU wins out, they could be in the play. I mean, we could have a Big 12 and a Pac-12 team making a playoff at the same time.
And if Georgia plays like they played yesterday, UST will run them off the field.
Oh yeah,
that's what's wild. So who knows if Ohio State plays like they played yesterday, TCU and USC will run them off the field. No, I don't think Ohio State's going to play like that in the playoffs with a month to prepare. But
here's a question about TCU, though. Why did Baylor hurry up and put the team on the field for the field goal? They have to stop. When that offense got off the field, the ref has to stop that to let you. Why was you rushing out there? Why not take your time? Burn some clock. That's what the rule is set for.
Yeah, well, and we saw what did UCLA get called for that at one point last night?
Yeah,
UCLA happened at UCLA. I watched so much football yesterday. I was trying to remember which game it was. Actually, you're right. It was probably mismanagement. But I thought Baylor mismanaged that whole last 2 series. Baylor should have won that game.
Right. Baylor
blew it. Now TCU is Cinderella. Now, have you guys been to Vegas? You've all been to Vegas, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, you know how when the roulette wheel is red, you're like, well, the next one's going to be black, and everybody's run over and putting money on black. Like, we know TCU is not that good a team. We know they're going to lose sometime. Maybe. because they're running out of chances to lose. And it's, I mean, it's all these teams
they're out of chances
to beat them.
They're out of chances to lose before the playoffs, I would argue, because I don't see Iowa State beating them.
No, but Kansas State might.
If the game was at Iowa State, maybe.
Won't Kansas State get them in the well, Kansas State will play them in the Big 12 championship, right?
Right. And Kansas State is playing good. So, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, maybe.
Aaron Alley, thank you for the $10 super chat. Aaron, thank you for the $10 super chat. He says, University of Houston playing Oregon in basketball. Do you think it's going to win? I'll be honest. I don't know.
Is it at Houston or at Oregon?
I don't know. I don't know where they're playing, and I also don't know how good Oregon is. I know Houston's a good team, basketball. I'm not sure how Oregon is either.
If it's at Oregon, Aaron, wear special sunglasses and do not look directly at their court because it's like the ugliest court in all of college basketball.
Yeah.
Don't look straight. It's like an eclipse. Don't look straight at it.
So, let's ask this question here. All right, so Georgia struggled a little bit yesterday, not mightily, but they struggled against Kentucky. They won 16-6. Ohio State struggled against Maryland. Everybody struggled. Is Georgia the clear-cut number one team by far, or do you think it got a little bit closer? Or did they look beatable after yesterday? Does Georgia look beatable?
Well, Georgia does look beatable. I mean, they can be beat, but unfortunately, Michigan's not going to beat them. I'm sorry to tell Michigan, you're one-dimensional. You're not throwing that ball. You're not going to run on Georgia, you know, especially when you're just one-dimensional. Now,
sunglasses, Aaron, don't look straight at the court.
if you can pass the ball, then you can run. But seeing that Michigan can only run the ball, Ohio State's problem is they can only pass the ball. They can't run the ball. So, again, they're one-dimensional.
If you could combine them, they'd win a national championship.
Right. And here's what I'm praying for. Just I would like to see, and you guys pick who wins, Oklahoma or Ohio State or Michigan. But I'd like to see them go to that championship game and get beat 7-6. Iowa scores 2 safeties and a field goal like they started the year and become your Big Ten champion.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome. It's Purdue, so they might even do better than Iowa.
That would be kind of funny. And then how would the committee look at that? Would they leave a Big Ten team out? I mean, it would be hard to take. It would be hard to take second place Ohio State or Michigan over Iowa, but you wouldn't want Iowa in the playoffs either. So I don't know what you do there. That's kind of funny. Aaron Alley says it's at Oregon. Thanks again for the $5 super chat. My money would be on Houston.
Somebody's going to get screwed this year, unfortunately, though, because I do think, and I don't want to jinx anybody's teams out there, but I think USC runs out. I think they're going to be 12-1.
I hope so.
I think TCU, even with the loss, they're 12-1. Clemson's going to be 12-1. So there's 3 teams. And
Clemson and USC, though, have an automatic thing between them that fixes this situation, I think. And that is that if USC wins out, USC play, and actually I think this goes both ways really for Clemson. Clemson hinges on what happens next week with USC and Notre Dame, because Notre Dame murder stomped Clemson.
Right.
Just murder stomped them. So if USC beats Notre Dame, then that shows Clemson to be the inferior pretender that a lot of us think they are. Now, if Notre Dame beats USC and USC falls away, Clemson, you know what? You lost to a good Notre Dame team. But I think that the Notre Dame USC game gives a really, really good sort of tiebreaker among those two, and kind of an evaluator of Clemson.
Aaron, thanks for coming in, buddy. I appreciate you being here. And thanks again for the super chats. And you have a good day as well. And enjoy the basketball game. Good luck to Houston.
Good luck to your Cougs.
The other thing I think I would put in as the committee is let's even take the Notre Dame game off the table. Who in the ACC is good besides Clemson?
No one.
Florida State has improved. Syracuse started out and then they fell.
Syracuse started off 6-0. Now they're 6-5.
Exactly. North Carolina, they had ups and downs, but now they're down. North Carolina State's down. But look at the Pac-12. The Pac-12 this year actually had 4 really good teams, and then another 4. We're going to beat you if you don't come with your A game. So I mean, right now, a lot of people won't admit
2 really bad teams, one of whom beat Notre Dame.
Yeah, one of whom beat Notre Dame. But you have to think that right now, the Pac-12 is the second best conference.
You probably are.
I'm sorry to the Big Ten. I'm sorry to the Big Ten. You got 2 teams, but your teams aren't that great.
Yeah. Your other 12 are pretty weak.
Yeah, I mean,
Penn State's decent.
Penn State is decent.
Nobody else.
And everybody else, the Big Ten West is just trying to give every other team the championship. They blow it every chance they get, And I mean,
yeah.
So the Big Ten, I know everybody's pounding their chest. That's not a really good conference this year. And they haven't played anybody out of conference, really. I will give it to Penn State. They did go to Auburn, and even though Auburn is a dumpster fire, at least they went to Auburn to try,
Well, and kudos to them for scheduling the game, because when you schedule Auburn 10 years in advance, you never know what you're going to get.
Well, and that's the whole thing with Auburn. And if you go through history, they're kind of a stock market. They're really good, then they're average, then they suck, and then they're good.
Maybe more of a crypto market.
Yeah, exactly.
Auburn's more of a crypto market.
Yep.
USC is kind of a stock market. It kind of goes up over time, but Auburn, it's a crypto.
Yeah, there's a lot of peaks and valleys when you get to Auburn.
There's a lot that can happen in the Big 12 as well. I mean, TCU is automatically in the Big 12 championship, even if they lose next week.
Is Kansas State in
the Big 12 championship? Kansas State's not locked yet. No, because Texas is in third, and if Kansas State loses next week in a rivalry game against Kansas, and Texas beats Baylor, then Texas would be in. But if Texas loses to Baylor, they're done. Or if Kansas State beats Kansas, Kansas State would be the team that would play.
Well, I think Kansas.
It depends on Kansas State.
Kansas looked so bad yesterday that I think Kansas. I mean, who knows in the Big 12, but Kansas State is certainly a better team than Kansas is.
But Texas has a lot riding on next week, because here's what can happen to Texas. They could either win and, like I say, Kansas State lose and they'd be in the Big 12 championship game, or they lose and a couple of other things happen and they finish in 5th place in the Big 12. So there's a thing there that where Texas could drop off and drop all the way down to the bottom half of the Big 12 compared to finishing in the top half. So that's going to be an interesting week for sure. That there's no doubt about that.
Definitely.
So rivalry week next week. Let's look at a couple of games from next week, because rivalry week's always great. Michigan, Ohio State. I mean, both teams struggled. So Ohio State has struggled several times this year. Michigan struggled several times this year, but they're both undefeated, and they're going to go head to head.
The other thing is the Big Ten
happening in that game?
The Big Ten does that every year. Like going back not just recent years, like going back 50 years, like they kind of beat up on each other and they play closer than other folks would think, and it gets tough. They get each other. I'll tell you guys, I honestly, in this one, before yesterday, I would have said probably Michigan. I don't know what's going on with Corum. I might have to lean to the Buckeyes. We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, they never did say, how bad Corum is hurt, but you do got to give it to the Buckeyes. I think it also helps that it's at the shoe. So, I mean, that's worth 3 points. In a game that's
close,
you always, if you can, take the home team. The home team, has a 3-point advantage, so it's better. And a lot of it, like you guys say, though, is who shows up. Is it good or bad Michigan? Is it good or bad Ohio State? But the problem with Michigan is they don't throw the ball more than 5-10 yards. They're not going down the field. You don't need a safety way back there because they're not going to check it down the field.
Mark Kearns was asking me, would TCU be knocked out of the college football playoff with a loss to Iowa State? Here's what I think. If TCU is going to drop a game, it needs to be next week against Iowa State to have a chance to be in the college football playoff with a loss, because then they would go to the Big 12 championship game, and if they can win that, that might push them back into the college football playoff. If they beat Iowa State and then losing the Big 12 championship, they would be out of the college football playoff, I believe, even with one loss. And then like if Kansas State wins the Big 12, they're not going to get in because they've got a couple of losses. Texas got a couple of losses. They're not going to get into the college football playoff. So the Big 12 would be left out. TCU is the only shot for the Big 12, I think. If that answers your question. That's what I think. You guys agree with me that TCU is probably the only shot for the Big 12? And
I think that anyone who says anything otherwise is making up nonsense.
Yeah, if they don't win out, they're not going. I'm sorry to tell you, this is Oklahoma State all over again in 2011. You lose to Iowa State, you're done.
Here's another rivalry game. This is a big
rivalry.
Although
West Virginia should go.
In South Carolina.
That's why I'm going with dude.
Yeah. This is a huge rivalry in South Carolina, and that's South Carolina versus Clemson. South Carolina just upset Tennessee, and I mean, they didn't just upset them. They just took them out behind the woodshed and just destroyed them. It's South Carolina playing a lot better, and honestly, the way Clemson's played this year, they're going to have to show up for this game. It was looking like that South Carolina was going to be a pushover. They're not looking like a pushover right now. They're playing very good football. So this is going to be a very interesting game, South Carolina.
Are they? Are they though?
Maybe not, but they look better the other day, yesterday.
Well, I mean, Tennessee was exposed as a pretender yesterday. Yes, but Tennessee's defense, Alabama destroyed Tennessee's defense. Just Alabama couldn't stop Tennessee. I mean, I thought Alabama exposed Tennessee kind of as a pretender on half the ball.
Well,
and
if you take the first quarter away from the Alabama-Tennessee game, we stomped them.
Yeah, exactly. I thought you were the better team. You were the better team throughout the game. They won, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But it reminds me a little bit of their baseball team, though, where they were like, okay, but like really obnoxious and then lost.
Well,
they were stunned.
Their baseball team a couple of years ago, their basketball team, it's like the coaches say, hey, we're going to make the show. Oh, here, hold my beer. We're going to show you how not to make it. How not to make it,
I'm about to actually win out. I mean, they have a good team. And I mean, there's a point at which this is going to sound crass, but like some people believe it's like you're either like riding the D or you're the enemy of the state. And like there's a middle ground. It's okay to be in the middle ground. And like Tennessee, they're good, but they're not like on the same level. They're certainly not on the same level as Georgia. I mean, LSU is pretty overrated. The thing is that you look at like who should really fill in these 7, 8, 9 slots. And the cool thing about a year with a lot of parity is you can get some mediocre teams that fill in those. I guess not mediocre, but we historically would have considered mediocre teams that can fill in those slots. And that's exciting and awesome for them.
Well, and the biggest problem Tennessee had was they drank their own Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They knew that they had the easiest path to get to the playoffs. They played the 2 easiest teams to get to the playoffs. And guess what? They didn't show up. And then, South Carolina beat them. And I'll tell you what, I made this prediction a week ago, and I'm going to stick to it. I think Vandy beats Tennessee next week.
Do you think so?
I think so.
Hey, I've seen a lot of people saying that.
Vandy's on a win streak.
Yeah. They won their last 2 against, Kentucky, who's not a terrible team, and Florida, who, they're having problems in that.
Oh, Kentucky's a terrible team.
I'm not going to call that game, but I will. I may possibly by midweek go out on a limb and say South Carolina's going to be Clemson. That's a rivalry game, and then rivalry games go crazy sometimes. And South Carolina just coming off a huge win over Tennessee. I think they're going to be a little bit high and coming in there, and it's going to be a great game between South Carolina and Clemson. Another big rivalry. This is not a big rivalry this is a big rivalry on one-sided. Georgia Tech and Georgia. Georgia Tech is going to consider this a huge rivalry, and Georgia is going to be like, okay, it's our little brother. So I think, Georgia Tech coming off a big upset yesterday over North Carolina. Can they do it 2 weeks in a row? Do they have anything for Georgia?
They don't still have the players. North Carolina, North Carolina was a definite pretender. That was a Cinderella. North Carolina's a team that gave up 40 points in the fourth quarter alone to App State. Like, let's not pretend it. They lost to Notre Dame, who lost to Marshall and Stanford. So, it doesn't surprise me at all that Georgia Tech did that to North Carolina, but Georgia Tech just does not have the horses, I don't think, to stay on the field with Georgia for more than a quarter or two.
Well, and think about that. North Carolina is Tennessee.
Mark's saying Hendon Hooker tore his ACL.
Yeah, he's going to be out.
Yeah,
that's too bad.
But if you think about it, Tony, North Carolina is Tennessee. They're all go, no stop. That defense has been terrible all year. They've been exposed. And Hooker, I hate to see that he's out, for the year, but I did say last night, I didn't only want Tennessee to lose. I wanted them to lose their car keys, their grandma's cornbread recipe, their wife, and
They pretty much did.
Yeah, they pretty much did.
You got your wish.
Now my question is, what is the SEC going to do with all this money that they're getting? Because Alabama had Tennessee $100,000, then had LSU pay $250,000. Now I didn't hear the fine for South Carolina storming the field last night.
I think it's only isn't it only $100,000 on your first offense?
Is it I couldn't remember if it was their first or second. So yeah.
I'm not sure. It all goes into scholarship funds, so it goes right back to the schools, but it goes to the school scholarship funds.
Because I think it's actually their second, Tony. I think they stormed the field first week in October in 2010 when Steve Spurrier beat Alabama in South Carolina. I believe they stormed the field that day.
Okay. They may have. You know better than I do.
Mr. Tim's joining us. What's going on, Tim?
What's up, gentlemen?
Fight on, Tim.
Fight on.
Nice
good day to be a Trojan. Every day is a good day to be a Trojan, but today's a nice day to be a Trojan.
Tim, I want to thank you and Tony that $250 win yesterday because I put it on USC in the morning. I took USC for $250.
Did you?
Yep.
You are a
and we got it by what, a half point?
What's that?
Did we beat the spread by what, half a point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you take the spread or straight up?
I did because I wouldn't have got as much because they were favored.
Yeah. So we've seen a lot of upsets this week, and upsets that we didn't expect so much, like South Carolina, Tennessee, and stuff. How about Iowa State and TCU next week? Iowa State going on the road to face TCU. TCU undefeated. Iowa State's not a pushover team by any means, but they are the worst team in the Big 12 statistically.
Yeah, I think they're going to get. I think TCU will get a wonderful confidence game and stomp them.
Yeah, it's going to be that. It's going to be the championship game with K-State. That's going to be the hurdle they need to get over. Kind of like USC.
I kind of see the game being like 17-3, 21-7, maybe. I think Iowa State will slow down their offense because they do got a good defense. You got to give Iowa State that. They don't have an offense. So
I think the thing about it is
big win.
TCU's coach Sonny Dykes. He's been there before. He knows what it's like to to have a team that's undefeated and doing good, and then all of a sudden have an upset loss. So he'll have that team ready to go, I believe. But that's going to be an interesting game. All right.
Where has he done that before? Cal? Did he do that at Cal before? When did he do that before?
I'm just saying. He's got experience.
I'm teasing. I'm being.
He's not going. LSU at Texas A&M, another one of them games that Texas A&M's got the talent. They don't have the coach. They got the talent to give LSU a good game here, and it's at Texas A&M. So, any thought there that there could be an upset in that game? I mean, LSU. If you listen to LSU fans, they're going to the playoffs.
Well, they're not going to the playoffs, but
I don't listen to LSU fans for like. If I'd rather listen to the QAnon shaman's jailhouse boyfriend than LSU fans. You'd get a more logical recommendation.
Yeah, I think that I tend to go with the proven talent more than what a recruiting source tells you who's a good player. So yeah, on paper they're a really good team, but they look like a horrible team on the field. So I can't see A&M doing anything.
A&M yesterday had 4 turnovers to UMass.
Just a mess.
And a big shout out to A&M. They wanted to be like UCLA, and they had 3,000 people in the stands there when I was looking at them this third quarter.
Really?
There was nobody in that place.
See, that's one thing about them. I've always been so impressed with their 12th man kind of thing, That place gets nuts, but to hear that, wow.
Yeah, they actually, Tim, there's a video, and I'll find the link and send you. They put students up on the top, and they were running a shirt and passing it they were running 3 rows over to hand a shirt to the next guy because there's nobody up in them stands.
The thing is they might be doing what USC did with Helton. At one point, the fan base, USC fan base core is probably up maybe 30 to 40,000 diehard fans that are always there. Just through the years, no matter what, right? But when you saw it dip below, was that Tony?
You mean in the stands?
Yeah, in the stands. All right. When I was at games, I saw that number going lower and lower. It was last year, and it was when people, and then the year before that, when the 30, 40,000 said, we love our Trojans, but we have another year of this guy, and you guys are not supporting us, and we're not going to continue to enable you guys to keep just rolling out this crappy product that you have and think that we're going to support you like we've done for the last, X amount of years. And that might be happening at A&M. People might be going, okay, you know what? We've had enough. Maybe if we show in the stands that we need a change, I don't care how you guys made the $80 million blunder. You need to fix that $80 million blunder because we're not going to keep coming to this crap. It's just a guess on my part.
And honestly, fans have to do that because, you take teams like for years, they just rolled out a decent team. You knew they weren't making the play, but the fans kept showing up, and if you show up, change don't happen. Like you said, you gotta send. Don't go to games. Don't buy merchandise. Tell them you're done until a new coach comes in. I know that buyout is huge for Texas A&M, but Texas A&M at the best next year will be 8-4. I will tell you right now, I would put $1,000 right this minute that next year, Jimbo Fisher's the coach. They will not be better than 8-4.
Well, and the one thing that stopped me from doing that, because I heard the argument and it was a solid argument, but I was also I was that nerd that Tony makes fun of, not begging kids to come to our school, but I was like, yeah, on message boards and on Twitter, not to them, not adding the actual kids, but saying, oh, I hope this guy comes. I hope this guy comes. Yeah, I'm not that weird.
As long as you're not sending it to them and their parents, then it's fine.
Yeah, no, I don't go that level. But I figure that if I'm begging recruits to come to my school, the least I'm gonna do is when they're on my team, I'm gonna have my ass in the stands because I wasn't doing it for the administration, I'm not gonna go there, but. If you're gonna be like, oh, I hope you come to our be a Trojan and blah blah, and then you know what, you guys aren't good enough. I'm gonna stay home. I just thought that would be that's just a bridge too far for me. So I said I'm gonna go.
I think that
the other bridge, Tony and Tim, I don't like is West Virginia did it earlier this year. Alabama did it in the past. I don't like booing the coaches when the players are on the field.
Yeah, agreed.
You know what I mean? Those kids are playing their heart out. They're trying their hardest. They're there. It's not them. I understand that you're coach, but those players are hearing the boos, and I don't appreciate it. Now,
And they're hearing boos. And
pros, that's one thing. They're paid. The college kids, they don't need boos.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm thinking
they probably feel like they're the reason why.
Right off the top of my head. I think there's 3 teams right off the top of my head that are going to lose a lot of players this year. After this year, they're going to transfer out, and that's talent. They got a lot of talent, and that's Texas A&M. I think they're going to lose some talent. I think they'll have a lot of transfers. Miami's had terrible season, and West Virginia. Those 3 teams, I think, are going to lose a lot of transfers. We're already seeing it. Woods announced yesterday he's transferring. During the game, he tweeted this out during the game that he was transferred. So, I think there's going to be some down years again next year. No clown suits, Uncle Lou says. No, I don't wear a clown suit, Uncle Lou.
But you know what the thing is like, I remember being a kid. I don't know if Nordstrom's is like a national chain or whatever, but it's like this clothing store. And I remember as a kid, my mom like, "That's where you going?" She goes, "There's a sale at Nordstrom's, right?" And so my mom out the door, right? Well, that's what there is. There's a sale at A&M. And at all the SEC schools and USC, and Texas and all these and Michigan and OSU, they're just waiting for the doors to open when the season opens, and they're going shopping at Nordstrom's. I mean, at A&M, because that's what's going to happen. These kids know that they got a lame duck coach, that things are going bad.
Well, especially I would think
all that talent. Oh my God.
I mean, I kind of wonder a little bit about a lot of those kids, particularly, and I hate to be a little like self-focused on this, but there's a lot of those kids who went from California to rural Texas. And if you're not winning, you're pretty miserable in rural Texas. Guess what? On both sides of back home in LA, on both sides of town, life is a whole lot different now than it was 2 years ago.
Exactly.
And I wouldn't at all see some kids be like, Mom, I kind of miss the sunshine.
And that happens even on great programs, right, Tony? I mean, I remember SC with Pete Carroll. There'd be a kid from New Jersey that came, a 4-star kid that came all the way across the country. If you don't get those guys early playing time, those young kids from out of state, they get lonely. They're sitting, they're putting in the work, they're not going, and all of a sudden they're like, I can go back home and get instant playing time. And like Tony's saying,
especially when where you are is rural Texas.
Yeah.
You're not talking about we're not talking about kids at UT, like Austin's awesome. We're talking about College Station and Old Rock, the Good Ag, all the nonsense that doesn't really appeal to a lot of kids like that. And that's not a new thing. I mean, there's funny stuff. I won't bore you guys about this. I was reading some stuff about guys in the 50s, players saying the same kind of stuff.
Well, and here's another thing people don't talk a lot about. Everybody talks about NIL. And NIL is great, and a lot of kids want that money. But if you're a 5-star and you're a 4-star, do you go to Texas A&M and get that money, but play on a team that's not very good, and maybe you're a receiver, and look at the quarterbacks they have. You're not getting the catches. That's going to hurt you going to the NFL because there isn't much tape on you making good plays because your quarterback can't throw it to you, or, you're on a defense. You're not getting help from the other side. So, you're losing sacks, stuff like this. NIL is good for a 2-star, a 3-star, but when you're up in the 4 and 5 stars, that money only matters if it'll help benefit you to get to the NFL. Because most 5-star kids, $2 million in college is pennies compared to that first-round draft pick check from the NFL. And so even though everybody says A&M has money, yeah, they have money, but if you guys had a kid right now who was, a top 5 quarterback or a top 5 receiver for A&M, would you push him towards A&M or tell him, you might want to go somewhere else?
It's funny you say that because I know a top 5, top 3, top 2 quarterback that was committed to USC, but was being courted by A&M. And I think the big reason, I'm sure he was getting a better whatever money or NIL possibly over at A&M. But I'm sure the parents looked at the fact that, do I want my son to be in a system with Lincoln Riley and a quarterback, get tutored by Lincoln Riley and stay with his quarterback's coach, which is here in Southern California? Or do I want him to go take millions over in College Station? And they did. They probably looked at the couple of million here or looking at that first NFL contract, or probably thinking about the second NFL contract that's coming up. So the NIL money is right. It's peanuts. It's crazy for all of us working stiffs to say that's peanuts compared to what these kids are going to be making if they land the right system, get trained and develop properly, and get that nice high first round guaranteed money. Yeah.
Well, and also I think there's a lot of questions as well. A lot of the numbers you hear reported are not accurate. And I think there's some frustration that kids have when, things don't actually necessarily pan out and they don't have control of things, and it just, doesn't work out into what it needs to be.
Now, Tony, are you trying to tell me that there would be agents out there and people out there who would take advantage of these kids and their money?
Maybe a few.
That happens.
Maybe just a few.
But the thing with Jimbo, look at Jimbo. He has not developed any quarterback. Jameis Winston is the only quarterback that has done really anything that he's coached.
Yeah.
I was just looking at this. There's a lively, angry chat. Was it the hat I'm wearing? What's going on?
There is.
I've been watching that.
I just went over. I jumped into StreamYard because Joey sent me the link. But I just pulled up the chat right now. Apparently, Caleb Williams is a showboat, just like his coach at USC. I'll tell you what, you guys cry.
Now you wasn't here, Tim, when we talked about South Carolina upsetting Tennessee yesterday. Did you?
Who's South Carolina?
What were your thoughts on that?
Spencer Rattler looked like
the other USC. The other USC.
Yeah, they're scarred. I mean, they took it to them, but I guess we knew that Tennessee had no defense, right? Just going through all the other games they're in, they had Hendon Hooker and an interesting offense, but it's okay if you're an SEC to not have a defense, right?
Well,
if you don't have a defense somewhere else, it was so funny. Hold on, Jeff. One of the conversations I caught, like, well, they have no defense, blah blah. After they lose, right? But sure as hell didn't keep them from being in the top 5 earlier, right?
Yeah, they haven't had a defense all year.
Yeah, so all of a sudden now they don't have a defense. We all knew they had no defense, but if it's the SEC, it's okay to have no defense, and you can be in top 5, but it'll keep other teams out. That was kind of weird.
Now, Tim, I might have sent a tweet out yesterday about Tennessee and Hooker, about how Hooker was pimp slapped.
On a sober note, did he get hurt? I saw somewhere he hurt his groin.
We heard ACL.
ACL.
Yeah.
When you see those non-contact, like the way he just kind of buckled there, it's usually an ACL or something in that knee, and that's horrible.
And how is that? You don't get hit, and you actually hurt more than a person who just demolished it. You know what I mean? Like you say,
it's just how you plant.
It's just how you twist your knee, or you tear that ACL.
If your cleat, this happens to everybody. If your cleat catches, like, in grass, sometimes with that little whatever, you got to just not uneven. If you catch it, or if you just plant it, it slips, right? You don't really think about that, but those non-contact ones, it happened to our quarterback, Mo Hassan, in the spring game. He just running up the field, right? Spring game, boom, blows his knee out.
I just saw actually Tennessee football has confirmed a torn ACL.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
They tweeted it out with a thank you note to him.
What year is Hooker?
Yeah, I hate to see that. I hate to see any player hurt. I really do.
What year is he?
He's a senior.
Oh, shit.
It says he's one more year though because of COVID.
I don't think so. I don't know. I'm not sure. I had heard this was his last year.
Was it?
I don't know if that's because they think he's going. I don't know his eligibility status.
Roger just said he's 25. So
okay, I'll read it. I'll read this. It says, quarterback Hendon Hooker sustained a torn ACL in his left knee Saturday night. Hendon and Hooker family appreciate all of your prayers and support. Hendon's incredible journey has been defined by faith, perseverance, and strength. Obstacles have never stood in the way on his path to greatness. Forever a Tennessee legend and the ultimate teammate, we know Hendon will come back stronger than ever as he embarks on a promising NFL future. Thank you, Hendo. And that's from @VolFootball, the official.
Well, and you think about it, he's tied probably for second all-time great quarterback at Tennessee with Peyton Manning. Only T. Martin would be ahead of him.
Don't say that name to us. That name is triggering to USC fans.
All right, so one more game because I got to get you guys prediction on this game because Notre Dame's been chasing that stain of losing to Marshall all year, and then they went and beat Clemson, which was a great win. Now they're coming to USC, guys. I got 2 USC guys in here. I'm happy to pick Notre Dame in this game, guys. I'm sorry. I know that y'all are not going to like that, but I've got to
go right ahead and tell me, as long as you can bet. Don't just say I'm going to pick Notre Dame. You please tell me how Notre Dame's going to outscore USC. Go ahead.
Not saying they're going to outscore them. I'm saying they're going to stop them.
But they have to score, and Drew Pine ain't going to do that. Not nearly enough. I think they get rolled. I'll be honest. You guys know that I don't usually predict us to roll on somebody. I think we're going to roll Notre Dame.
What people have been looking at, and I've been hearing it a lot in the national media, is they're like,
Notre Dame's not good.
They're playing close games against Cal and Arizona, but people are looking at box scores. They're not looking at the fact that USC was up 20 going into the second half and then up 20 in the fourth quarter, and then onside kick and some crazy weird shit happened. I mean, and the fact that you do realize that for the past 4 games, Addison and Mario Williams been out. They came back for the last game, but our 2 best receivers have been out. I was really worried we lost Travis Dye, and I still think for all the intangibles that Travis Dye does, that it's a huge loss, including his leadership. But Austin Jones yesterday was running like a man, like an angry dude. The problem is with people that make predictions against USC is, and fair enough to them, who wants to watch football at 3:00 in the morning? But I mean, no one's watching the games. Everyone watches this offense, and I don't know what it is, but apparently when Lincoln Riley came to USC, he forgot how to call offensive plays. Apparently, like I keep hearing all the time that disrespecting Lincoln Riley. This guy's, if not the best, one of the best signal callers in the game, right? Play callers in the game.
It's got to be minimum top 3.
And by the way, but before the chat has an aneurysm over here, I only said that because I got 2 USC guys in here. Actually, I do think USC is going to win that game. I just wanted to get these 2 guys going a little bit and pick Notre Dame.
I was going to be like, hey, give away your money.
Don't have an aneurysm.
Give away your money if you want, by all means.
I will tell you one thing, though, about this game that I think will happen. I think it'll be a closer game than a lot of people are going to give it credit for. I don't think USC is going to have a problem at all scoring, but Notre Dame has found a way to run the ball. And if you're going to beat USC, you need a run game. Well, I mean, that's the weaker of the 2. Your run defense is weaker than your pass. Not saying that it's weak by any, but of the 2, it's easier to run on USC than it is to pass on them.
Tide Guy, did you watch the game last night?
I did.
Are you familiar with Zach Charbonnet?
Oh yeah, no, I seen what you guys did to Charbonnet.
This dude is one of the best running backs in the country, hands down. He hands down. Right. USC kept him under 100 yards. He had 95 yards on the night, and bottled him up. UCLA did, however, almost rush for 200 yards in that game, like 190 something. But 75 of that came from DTR, Dorian Thompson.
Scrambling, yeah. Either
on scramble, broken pass plays, because the coverage is good downfield.
Right.
They don't have anybody. Drew Pine is not DTR. Drew Pine is not going to run for 75 yards against USC. And Drew Pine, I'm sorry now. What's the over-under on Drew Pine staying in that game? Because USC's knocked out a bunch of... I keep hearing about how soft USC is, how the defense is this, how is that. Dude, we've knocked out so many quarterbacks. And I mean, I was talking to Larry, a Ute fan. He said that Rising has not been the same since that USC game when he got hammered a bunch of times by USC. I don't think, what's the over-under on Drew Pine getting through? I'm thinking maybe halftime that he's still in that game. So I have all mad respect. I do think that his name escapes me. The offensive line coach that came back. I think that the O-line they have there, just typical of like those. I know it's Freeman, but typical of those Kelly offensive lines that every 3 or 4 years they get some old guys on there, right? Some 5th-year guys or 4th-year guys on there, and they just steamroll teams. I am worried about that the offensive line. I am, but I just don't. I'm not afraid of skill positions. I think that we're going to play man, and we can play man. I know that his name too, the Mayer. I think Mayer's tight ends have hurt USC this year, especially when we've tried to stop the run. It's usually been the tight end that's hurt us. But we're gonna be able to play man. We're gonna be able to stack that box, and if we can do that and stop Charbonnet, I mean, what running back do they have? Yeah, they got Speedster. Goddamn, I'm forgetting people's names today, but they got that really tight.
But that's the only way Notre Dame can do it. They have to run the ball. They have to pick up first downs. They can't go 3 and out. They got to keep their defense off that field as much as possible because you guys do too much hurry up.
They're going to keep the defense off the field because we're just going to score.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, they got to keep their defense up. They've got to run the ball. They've got to do quick slants, quick, screen passes, stuff like that. Because Notre Dame does not have a quarterback that's going to pick you guys apart. That secondary of yours is going to stop them. So the only hope they have is to run the ball. And I don't see them. I see this game, honestly, as a 31 to maybe 10, 31-13. I don't see Notre Dame scoring more than 13 points on you guys.
I'm seeing that if Gentry plays. I think we win either way, but if Gentry plays, Mike, then I'm seeing an ass kicking. I just am.
They're toast.
I think
it'll be like the Pete Carroll years when we would beat them by 38 points every year. What, 4 years in a row or something? I think we beat them by 38 points.
It was 31, but I'm with you.
31, whatever.
Right? And I'm looking at. Maybe
I'm trying to figure out where this defense is. This USC defense. What defense are y'all talking about? USC.
Okay, so here's what you're doing. Here's what you're doing. You're looking at just like total yards per game, right? Is that what you're doing?
I'm looking at scores. I mean, scores matter. And everybody scored pretty good against you. UCLA
scores like how Notre Dame scored against Stanford. Look how Notre Dame scored against Stanford and when Notre Dame scored against Cal.
And Stanford's the worst team in our conference.
And don't forget how many Notre Dame scored against Marshall.
Well, right. I wasn't even. I'm not
saying Notre Dame's going to win this game. I'm not saying Notre Dame's going to win. I'm not saying Notre Dame's going to come out and score 40 points. I'm trying to figure out where the defense is you're talking about.
I want to go with this. I heard back in the 2000s that
Notre Dame might be as good as Rice, maybe.
Back in the 2000s, I heard how great the SEC defenses were, and how bad the defense was out on the West Coast. But the problem with that, and now I'm hearing that how great the defenses are in the Big Ten and how bad the defenses are other. Did anyone ever stop to think that maybe it's the quarterback play and the signal calling and the offenses that are making the defensive numbers and scoring look different? Because
y'all weren't saying that when we were doing that in Big 12. I remember, Tim. When we were scoring big in the Big 12, when we were scoring a lot of points, and our defenses looked like Swiss cheese. Y'all weren't talking like that. Y'all were saying defenses in the Big 12 were Swiss. No, we had coaches that
some of those defenses were Swiss cheese. Now we're not talking about West Virginia. We're talking about like the Texas Techs of the world. That was some Swiss cheese.
Right. But what
West Virginia's always had good defense.
When you have Lincoln Riley doing play calls for Oklahoma, and you had Dana Holgorsen doing play calling for West Virginia, that's two of the best offensive minds in the country, no doubt, right? There's going to be a lot of points scored, and there always was, 58, 56, 61, 59. I mean, it was huge. And our defenses looked horrible. But it was just because the offenses were so daggone good. And now the same thing's happening with USC. I'm not saying your defense is bad, but you are giving up points. And the reason why, because your offense scores so fast, gets out there and goes so fast, your defense spends a little bit more time on the field.
Well, and that would be a concern against.
So I can see Notre Dame scoring 3 touchdowns against you guys. I can
see Joey, just for a record,
something like 41-21 or something.
Well, Joey, I can see that. Time of possession for USC in the season. Take a look at it. I haven't looked at the last game or two, but I think it's been the same. USC is actually by like 30 seconds on average had the ball more than the opponent. So that's another misconception. Another misconception is USC doesn't run the ball. USC does run the ball a lot. So I'm just going with this. I keep hearing how bad the defenses are in the Pac-12, and there are some bad. And I'm not saying USC's defense is by any means gangbusters, But until this last game against UCLA, what I look at when I look at defenses, I look at scoring. I look at scoring defense, and I look at red zone defense. And sure, you're going to give up a lot of yards, right, against teams. But if you're getting stops, you're getting turnovers. USC also leads the country in turnover margin. USC also leads the country, in, is the top 5 in third down conversion. So I mean, you have to look at the whole picture, not just yards, not just points, but you have to look at the whole thing. And I would argue that a lot of these teams, again, we look at the Big Ten West and those offenses in the Big Ten West. Who isn't going to look like the greatest defensive coach of all time against some of those offenses and those quarterbacks? Name the quarterbacks in the Big Ten that you think are really good. Then go ahead and go down the top 7 quarterbacks in the Pac-12.
And think about this, Tim, because I get this from Michigan fans all the time. We have the number 1 defense in the nation. You do. Of all the teams you played in the Big Ten, only Penn State averages just at 250 yards passing a game. Iowa averages 158 yards passing a game. Yeah, that's really going to help your stats. You also played Rutgers, which averaged 161 yards a game. Yeah, that's really going to help your stats. You played Indiana at 218. Nebraska didn't play, or Michigan hasn't played anybody. And you're talking about you got the best defense. Well, when you cry your way out of playing UCLA and bring in Hawaii, it's pretty easy to have the best defense. Just because you got the best defense don't mean that you're the best defense. It just means you ain't played nobody.
And I'm not saying, and by the way, I'm not saying that Iowa and Michigan don't have really very good defenses, right? I'm not going there. I'm just saying that we start looking at numbers and this and that and stats. I think you have to realize, look at the competition. Look at the quality of the offenses you're playing. I do think that Iowa has an insane defense, right? But they also have an insanely bad offense. So you got
and anybody that would like to bet on Notre Dame, you should just give your money to the casino.
There you go. I want to address Ferris.
They appreciate it.
Ferris out in the chat room says, Tide Guy hates Michigan, laugh out loud. I don't hate Michigan is the thing. And everybody on this panel will tell you, I've said all along, I want the Blue Bloods back. I want them winning. The problem I have with Michigan is some of your fans. Just like Alabama has some winning fans. And,
everyone has those fans.
Your fans out there talking about, last night I had a guy tell me, Michigan would beat Alabama today by 17 points.
That's insane.
I'll load Alabama up any
That's
day of the
insane.
week against you guys, and you ain't going to beat us by 17. You barely beat Illinois. You don't want any of Alabama.
USC's ranked, Jeff. USC's ranked ahead of Alabama. Alabama would beat this USC. Would beat this USC team. I know that. You know what I mean? People that think that because Alabama has a couple losses, you guys aren't the Alabama of the past.
No,
but a lot of these teams are not going to beat Alabama. Just
no,
aren't.
and that's why. I mean, if you look, I don't dislike Michigan. I just like to poke fun at the crazy fans, and I don't care if you're in Ohio or And I'm certainly not one of the guys out here that have ever pressed the SEC. I'm a Bama fan. I don't care about Georgia. Don't care about Tennessee. Don't care about
In the beginning of the year, I said Ohio State was the best team in the country. I no longer think that way. Georgia's the best team in the country. But I think Ohio State and Michigan, I think Ohio State's going to win that game. And then I think Ohio State's going to get beat in the first round of the playoffs. I don't care who they play. I think Ohio State's going to get beat. I think the rest of the teams are all the other teams are playing better. But on that note, I want to get everybody's top 6 right now as it stands. Just your top 6. I'll tell you who mine are to start with, and we'll go from there. So my top 6 right now would be Georgia number 1, Ohio State number 2, Michigan 3, TCU 4, USC 5, and Clemson 6. That would be my top 6. I would have LSU. I would have LSU probably 7th, maybe. But my top 6, I would have Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, TCU, USC, and Clemson.
All right, I'm close to that, Joey, but I'm going to put asterisks on him. I actually would put them in the same order, but there's 2 asterisks. 1, Michigan with Blake Corum healthy. I put him as 2 above Ohio State. He's hurt. I don't know how badly he's hurt. We'll see. Otherwise, I have them above. TCU, I have in place right now, but I have them in pencil because if USC wins out, I don't care if TCU wins out or not. If USC beats Notre Dame and Oregon, I put them ahead of TCU. And
But
TCU people get mad at me for that.
If TCU wins out with the committee, I don't think the committee would. An undefeated
We'll see.
TCU.
I don't think TCU is going to win out. I still don't think TCU is Cinderella, and when the clock went to midnight, Cinderella went into the bathroom and bought a gram of pixie dust in a little bag, and somehow she's still at the ball. And it's 4:30 in the morning, and she's still at the ball. What?
Couple grams.
Yeah, Cinderella bought an 8-ball of pixie dust. She's still at that ball, dancing away at 4:30 in the morning.
She could be at at 5 a.m.
We're gonna find her dead in a bathtub at some point. Dead in a Kansas State bathtub.
Maybe. Tim, what's your top 6?
I'll go. Ty, go ahead. I'm still thinking between 2 here, but I'm. Give me a second.
This is my top 6, and this isn't my top 6 today. This is my top 6 after this Saturday. This is where they're going to be. You're going to have Georgia at number 1. You're going to have Ohio State at number 2. You're going to have TCU at number 3. You're going to have USC at number 4. You're going to have Clemson at number 5. And you'll have Michigan at number 6.
Is that after next weekend? Is that what you're saying?
That's after this weekend coming. After the games this week.
Oh, that's what we're doing after this week.
Oh no, he's doing what he's doing now. But I said
I'm just wanting to know right now. But he just went ahead and did. I'm wanting to know right now though. Where do you place him right now?
I need help with this one right here. With Alabama and LSU. Why do we have LSU above Alabama?
Head to head.
Yeah.
They beat
overtime in Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They play on a neutral field 5 times.
Yeah.
Alabama's winning 4 times.
Yeah.
Here's my answer to anything about the glory of LSU.
Yeah, if you're gonna hold Oregon to getting butt kicked by Georgia, you're gonna have to talk that one as well.
LSU can't answer this.
And one more question for you guys.
You also can't count out the fact that Alabama was beaten by Tennessee, who got mud stomped yesterday by South Carolina. So,
well, you can if you think Tennessee's an erratic pretender.
And again, on the road.
You think Alabama has 2 losses by a combined 4 points.
Yeah, on the road, right?
Both games on the road. One was a last-second field goal as the clock expired. The other was overtime.
So if you're asking me on the field like a power rankings, or are you saying what do I think that what do I think that the committee, or you ask me what if I was on the committee, how would I vote?
If you were on the committee, where would you place the top 6 teams right now? Who would be your top 6 if you was on the committee?
I like what Tony said about the Ohio State Michigan thing with Corum, but also that Ohio State running back room is pretty smashed up as well right now. And they've shown the one thing about Ohio State to me is they've shown that they can't really run the ball. And I think Mark Rogers last night said that it's going to be in the 40s or low 30s. Low 30s. I can't remember 30s, low 30s, and rain/snow. If that's the case, after next week, I think Michigan wins that game.
Hold on. Wait a minute. That's not true, Tim.
No?
Because being from Alabama and listening to Michigan fans and Ohio State fans, y'all won't come up and play in November in football weather. Well, it's football weather, right?
Yeah.
So, you know what? Suck it up, Buttercup, and play in that football weather and throw that ball.
And I don't know. That's not football. That's not football weather. I've always heard that. Oh, it's football weather. It's freezing. The conditions are shitty, and people are falling on their faces, and quarterbacks are sailing balls into the stands. That's not football weather. That kind of weather doesn't show you who the best team is. That just shows you.
No, but it's really fun.
It's mudding.
It's really fun.
All that weather does is it shows you that you would rather take a chance with pneumonia than stay home with your wife and do a honey-do list. That's all that weather does.
I can't remember, like 6-7 years ago. It was the first time I can remember in my life that it rained during a Notre Dame game.
I remember that.
In my lifetime.
It's rained a couple times during Notre Dame games.
I've been going to USC home games if I've been in the country.
I think that's when you were living in Europe.
Yeah, except for I was in England. I've been to every home game, and that's the only one I can remember.
It was your fault. You sent the rain from England.
Yeah. This was way afterwards. I've been back from England for years before that. But it was one time we've had shit weather for a game. And that's the way to me, that's football weather. So I think that it would be one Georgia. Flip a coin next week, flip a coin between Ohio State and Michigan. I'll just leave it Ohio State, Michigan for right now. And then it's gonna be TCU because they're undefeated. Tony, I can't do it. I just can't. I can't knock someone out of the playoffs who's undefeated. That's just me. If they get knocked out, they get knocked out. But I've always been on the thing. If you are,
I think they get knocked out. I'm saying it's that roulette wheel has been on red. It's been on red. It's been on red. Cinderella's little baggie of pixie dust is running low.
But after next week, I don't think they lose next week.
0 green
until they lose, and they're gonna be if they're a conference champ and they're undefeated.
If TCU, that's what I said. If TCU is a conference champ and they're undefeated, they got it. But you know what? Yeah. I don't think they're going to be a conference champ and undefeated.
I think you're right. I think Kansas State beats them, but I don't think they lose next week. So then,
I think they beat Iowa State. I actually think they beat Iowa State pretty solidly. And go TCU, by the way. Like TCU fans, I'm not ripping on you for this. I am saluting you. If there's any TCU, I'm not seeing the chat, so I don't know if there's any TCU fans in the chat. Your team is freaking awesome. Like you guys absolutely are rocking it out, and that's how you do it. I mean, your team just finds a way to win, and that is the most amazing thing ever. And kudos to those guys, like rock stars. Like that's hard.
The thing about it is, if it happens,
I would argue that's harder than being like 2015 Alabama. It's harder to do what TCU is doing now than TCU. Yeah.
Let's say it happens like you said it could happen. Like TCU gets left out of the playoffs because USC has 2 great wins at the end of the season, and it knocks them out, and they put USC in and leave TCU out.
I don't think
TCU goes and wins their bowl game.
I don't think TCU gets knocked out. No, here's the thing: is the loser of Michigan Ohio State is probably going to get knocked down. If USC wins out, TCU wins out, Georgia wins out, one of Michigan Ohio State wins out. Those are your 4 playoff teams.
And here's why, Tony, because again, Ohio State and Michigan, who the hell have you played? Whoever beats the other one, hell yeah, that's like a rubber stamps, and you're in kind of win.
John Waffle HTP, yes, they've played in the snow many times. They play against Utah, they play against Colorado, they play against Washington State.
Yeah,
all the time. Notre Dame
57.
Notre Dame a lot of times. We play at Notre Dame.
And that's why when we had players who had legitimately had frostbite, we said, you know what? We aren't playing in your shit anymore. We'll play in October. We're not playing at the end of the year in South Bend anymore.
Still, they've had snow in that game. So, yeah, they've played in the snow.
And remember this also, you guys, one big myth. Everyone's to realize, you know what? All the players that are on USC's team didn't all come from Southern California, guys. Right? They came from Texas. They've come from Washington, D.C., they've come Jersey, from all over the country.
Maryland, Ohio,
right? Colorado, etc. So this idea that if you play in Southern California, all of a sudden you didn't play high school football in Texas in November, you're forgetting shit, right? You guys got to think logically.
Well, here's kind of a little shout out to one of my friends out in the audience who says Alabama don't play in snow. Well, unfortunately, Michigan hasn't played in confetti.
Oh shit! Oh my god!
Oh! Yeah. Okay, I'm going to write that down. I'm writing it down. I'm using that.
That's harsh.
Awesome.
They did 97.
Yeah. They didn't do confetti back then.
Okay,
they didn't because I was there. I was on the field of that game. There was no confetti.
Well, we'd have to go all the way back to the 40s after that. So I don't know if they had confetti. Did they have ticker tape parades back then? Maybe they had ticker tape parades back then. For the national champions back in the 40s.
You know, it was 50 years in between championships. The last one before that was 47.
Yeah. My mom was born in 47. She's seen one. She's 74 years old, or whatever. I can't do the math. Sorry, but she's always seen one Michigan national championship in her lifetime. And she's a little old lady from Michigan. So I'm telling you, you don't want to run smack at Alabama Wolverines. Just stop. Just stop right now. It's not what you want to do right now.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. The other thing, Wolverines. So I was actually a little quieter this week and I told Tim this. I said we're not going to mouth off until we beat UCLA. And Michigan fans, don't mouth off until you beat Ohio State. You might. It'll be awesome.
And I like Michigan.
Okay, hold on.
I'm from Michigan.
I got to do one more.
Michigan, the leaders and best.
I got to do one more shout out to Michigan Jason. I
Michigan
will enjoy
Jason's
the
awesome.
confetti because I can kiss it goodbye when Saban retires. I think I spoke to your dad back in '82 when he said, "Bear died, you'll never be any good ever again." We've won 7 titles since then. We've only had 2 decades that we did not win a title in. So,
somebody had asked me, and I don't even know if they're in here or not, but somebody had asked me, how did we fall in recruiting rankings at West Virginia after a 4-star decommitted? I just looked it up, and we're 30th in recruiting for 2023 right now. So I don't think we fell too bad. So. Anyway, I'm gonna let everybody give her final word here. I gotta go eat some dinner,
quick,
man. I have
question for you guys.
Yeah, go ahead.
Joey, you know these things. Joey, is Neil Brown gonna be back next year?
It's looking like it, and he's not getting fired until a new athletic director comes in and reevaluates everything. So,
they're probably not going to make a new football coach their day one decision.
Right. They're going to come in because every program has been down at West Virginia. So he's got a lot to evaluate. Our basketball looks good this year. Our soccer team, women's soccer, just won the Big 12 championship and the NCAA tournament right now. So it's looking good as far as some of the programs starting to come back. And I'm sure he'll come in and reevaluate everything and decide then whether or not he gets fired. Also, it's going to be according to who we can get. You know, a lot of coaches on the market. A lot of them coaches are going to be taken up.
Here's another question, because West Virginia, we just won the Big 12 men's soccer. The World Cup starts this week. Today. You guys know the SEC does not even sponsor soccer? So I have a question for you. Why does the SEC hate America?
Now, wait a minute. Alabama's the top women's soccer.
Men's soccer.
And
women's
we've
World
had
Cup right now.
Alabama has a soccer club. We just don't have it as a regular.
Why does the SEC hate America?
Yeah.
USC doesn't have men's soccer either, but it's fine.
Because we can't pay the players and coaches enough to come.
All right, there you go. They're paying them too much in Germany. They're paying them too much in Germany.
That's right, damn.
I like that. I like that. All right.
Hey,
all right, SEC, you're forgiven. You're forgiven, SEC.
Tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern, I am going to do a StreamYard. So if anybody's off tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern, the U.S. plays Wales. So we'll do a call during the game if anybody wants to.
That's going to be on your channel.
Let me practice.
Yeah.
Okay, let me practice. That wasn't offsides. I don't know what offsides is.
Oh, Tony, I thought you were whip off some Welsh for us. I was going, whoa, that I really would have impressed.
What do I look like? Prince Charles?
I thought he was going to go with score or goal. All right, guys, let's get some final words here real quick and get out of here. My supper's sitting in here ready. Appreciate everybody being here. Tony, give us your final word, man, and tell us how bad USC is going to be Notre Dame.
West Virginia Mountaineers, hang in there. You guys had a bit of a rough year, but I think it's going to get better. Glorious night last night for the SC fans. Check it out against Notre Dame. It's going to be just, I think, an epic one for the ages. And I appreciate everybody. We love chatting with all you guys from, I can't see who's in the chat right now, but all the Michigan fans, Ohio State, you guys are all awesome. And it's part of what makes this just an incredible, electric, fun season for everybody, even though we give each other a hard time. So good luck to everybody this week.
Tony, I appreciate you being here, buddy. Tim? Got a final word for us, buddy?
Just always love being invited here. I'm glad I was actually finally able to make it on a Sunday. Again, usually I stay up to like 3 or 4 in the morning watching all the games because it's like every Saturday is like a Christmas for me, and I just sleep all day Sunday to get up around noon. My wife has the honey-do list, and by the time I get all that done, you're usually done. But love talking to all you guys, and like Tony said, the chat. I don't think you're gonna find that Tony or I are Michigan haters. We are far from it. If anything, my entire family is from Michigan, so I always side with Michigan over Ohio State.
Coach Carr has been a friend of my dad since he was 18 years old. My dad got Lloyd Carr drunk for the first time.
But story. We also aren't much for kind of throwing shade at, like, you will never hear me talk shit about Alabama. And I think USC's pedigree is until about maybe 11 years or 12 years ago was right up there with Alabama. What Alabama has done the last 12 years, everyone needs to take a step back and go, holy shit, I wish that was my team doing that. So that's what stops me from saying that.
I'm going to put a chat up here for you. There you go. There you go. I'll let you respond to that.
That's true. I think South Carolina does have 12 national championships, right? That's one more than USC. And I think they have 8 Heismans. That would be one more than USC.
This is actually an issue that's already been resolved by the trademark courts. So no comment necessary.
Or maybe they have 17 Hall of Famer, NFL Hall of Famers. Oh no, wait, that's USC. So I don't think that. Wait, the 14. I get it. Anyway, we have the most. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. So the other SC, whatever you are, Scar or whatever. What's funny? I used to love it. You'd always see USC on ESPN back in the day before the whole big SEC network happened. It'd always be USC and you guys remember SCAR, Scar. So you know what? Yeah. You guys, you can run the South Carolina back all you want. Honestly, all I know is that they're a team that is Clemson's and I put rival in quotation marks. I'll leave it at that. But thank you, Joey.
Thank you for the salary super sticker, Mark. Tim, thanks for coming in, buddy. That guy, you want to give us your final words and stuff?
All right, this is for Tim and Tony. Simru Ambite. That is Welsh. It means Wales forever.
There you go. But you didn't do the Welsh accent, and I guarantee none of this panel can do the Welsh accent, so we'll take it.
Nah, I can't do a Welsh accent. My grandpa could, but I can't. I'm actually really excited for this weekend. I mean, there's a lot of great games. It's going to weed out who the pretenders are a little more. And again, I make fun of Michigan, and I'll make fun of Michigan all the time. But as I said, I want Michigan, Ohio State, Nebraska, USC, Texas, Oklahoma, Alabama. I want us all good. I want the Blue Bloods back. I want to see when we get to a 12-team playoff, I want a 12-team playoff. I want you to be scared to not be a number 1 or number 2 seed because anybody else in that team, anybody can beat anybody. And it's been a long time since there's been 4 or 5 teams that could beat anybody. We go back to the 70s with some of those USC teams, Notre Dame teams, Oklahoma, Texas, Alabama. Those were good times. I think college football needs it now, especially since we're kind of rating a lot of the conferences and cutting it down to 2 real powerful conference and then, 3 a step below. So I do want to see everybody, do well and make for a good playoff.
Yeah. Well, once again, thanks everybody for being here. Thank you in the chat for being here, and it's great, lively chat. I've been reading some of them and love that all of you were making your comments and stuff. I think it's great to trash talk and have some fun. Appreciate everybody coming here. I'll be back with you next Sunday. Of course, Golden Blue Dude's not feeling well today. I talked to him earlier, and he wasn't feeling too well, so something happens, he's not feeling well again tomorrow, I will do the show tomorrow for him. But so be sure everybody come back in with us. But thanks for being here. Thank you all for the super chats. You guys have been great, and we will see you next time.